The morning sun cast long shadows across the dusty hiking trail as Sarah Martinez made her usual patrol of the wilderness area. As a veteran park ranger with 15 years of experience, she thought she'd seen everything these remote trails had to offer. But what happened that day would challenge everything she knew about wild animals and their capacity for compassion. The first sign that something was different came when a magnificent wild stallion appeared at the trail's edge. Its coat was the color of burnished copper, muscles rippling beneath as it paced back and forth. But it wasn't the horse's beauty that caught Sarah's attention. It was its behavior. In all my years working these trails, Sarah would later recall, I'd never seen anything like it. Wild horses typically avoid human contact, but this one was different. It seemed almost desperate to get our attention. The stallion would approach within yards of passing hikers, nickering softly before retreating a few steps. Then it would pace, toss its head, and approach again. Its dark eyes held an intelligence that seemed almost human, a silent plea that made even experienced ranchers stop and take notice. Word of the unusual behavior spread quickly through the local ranger station. By midday, a small group had gathered to observe the horse, including Mike Thompson, a wildlife behaviorist who'd spent decades studying the local herds. "Something's wrong," Mike said firmly, watching the stallion's repeated attempts to approach. "This isn't normal behavior for a wild horse. They don't seek out human interaction unless there's a compelling reason." The horse seemed to sense their growing attention. It approached closer than ever, its movements becoming more urgent. When it was just yards away, it would stop, look back over its shoulder, and whinny, a sound that seemed to carry both urgency and desperation. "It's trying to tell us something," Sarah realized, her voice barely above a whisper. "It wants us to follow." The small group exchanged glances, years of experience telling them to be cautious, but something about the horse's behavior demanded attention. As they watched, the stallion moved a few steps down an unmarked trail, then turned back to look at them expectantly. This wasn't just unusual behavior. It was unprecedented. Wild horses were known for their wariness, their instinct to flee from human contact. But this one was different. This one was asking for help. If you've ever witnessed animals showing extraordinary intelligence or compassion, share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales of animal heroism and survival. As the small group of rescuers began following the stallion, the familiar hiking trails quickly gave way to rougher terrain. The horse moved with purpose, frequently pausing to ensure its human companions were still following, its copper coat gleaming in the patches of sunlight that filtered through the dense canopy above. "We need to be careful," Mike warned, his experienced eyes scanning the increasingly challenging landscape. "These areas aren't marked on any trail maps. One wrong step and we could lose our bearings completely." Despite his caution, there was something in his voice that suggested he trusted the horse's intention. Sarah checked her radio signal, noting with growing concern that reception was becoming spotty. "We should mark our path," she suggested, pulling out bright orange trail markers from her pack. "Something tells me we're heading somewhere important." The stallion led them through a maze of obstacles that seemed impossible to navigate. Fallen trees blocked their path, forcing them to climb over moss-covered trunks, while the horse easily circled around. Narrow passages between rock formations required them to squeeze through sideways, their equipment scraping against ancient stone. "Look at how it waits for us," observed Tom Riley, a local rancher who joined the group. "Every time we slow down or face a difficult passage, it stops, almost like it understands our limitations." The horse's patience was remarkable, standing still until every member of the rescue team had safely crossed each obstacle. As they ventured deeper into unfamiliar territory, the sounds of the forest changed. The cheerful chirping of birds gave way to an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional snap of branches under their boots and the soft nickering of their guide. Jenny Thompson, a wildlife veterinarian who'd been quietly observing the horse's behavior, suddenly held up her hand. "Listen," she whispered. In the distance, barely audible over their heavy breathing, came a sound that made everyone freeze. A faint, desperate cry. The stallion's ears pricked forward, and its movements became more urgent. It pawed at the ground, tossing its head with renewed determination. The cry came again, clearer this time. An understanding began to dawn on the rescuers' faces. "That's not just any sound," Jenny said, her voice tight with emotion. "That's a foal in distress." The horse, sensing their recognition, became more insistent. It moved faster now, forcing the team to quicken their pace despite their fatigue in the treacherous terrain. The cry grew louder, but something about it sent chills down their spines. It was weak, desperately weak. "We need to hurry," Sarah urged, her years of experience telling her that whatever they were about to find, time was of the essence. The stallion seemed to understand her words, nickering softly in agreement as it led them toward what they all now realized was their true destination. The group pressed on, their earlier skepticism completely forgotten. Whatever lay ahead had driven this wild horse to do something extraordinary, to trust humans, to seek their help, to lead them into this remote wilderness. As they followed their unusual guide, none of them could have prepared for what they were about to discover. As they pushed through a dense thicket of brush, the sight that greeted them stopped everyone in their tracks. There, in a small clearing barely touched by sunlight, lay a tiny foal. Its coat, which should have been sleek and healthy, was dull and matted. Its ribs protruded sharply against its skin, telling a story of days without proper nourishment. The wild stallion that had led them here moved forward first, approaching the foal with gentle steps. It lowered its head, softly nickering as it nuzzled the weak creature. The foal responded with a faint whimper, barely able to lift its head. "Dear God," Jenny breathed, her veterinary training already assessing the situation. "This little one's been without milk for days." She moved forward slowly, careful not to startle either horse. To everyone's amazement, the stallion stepped aside, as if understanding that help had finally arrived. Sarah's throat tightened as she watched the scene unfold. The foal couldn't have been more than a few weeks old, far too young to survive on its own. Its legs, which should have been strong enough to support its weight, trembled with exhaustion. "Look at this," Mike called softly, examining the area around the foal. His experienced eyes had spotted signs that told a grim story. Scattered around the clearing were traces of a struggle, trampled vegetation, marks in the earth, and most telling, traces of blood that had long since dried. The stallion stood guard as Jenny conducted a quick examination of the foal. "Severe dehydration," she reported, her voice professional, but unable to completely hide her emotion. "Malnutrition, exposure. It's a miracle this little one has survived this long." Tom, who had been quietly observing the stallion, spoke up. "That's because of him," he said, nodding toward the copper-colored horse. "Look at the ground around the foal. Those are his hoof prints. He's been standing guard, protecting it." The realization hit them all at once. The stallion hadn't just found the foal by chance. It had been watching over it, perhaps for days, until it finally made the extraordinary decision to seek human help. "But why?" Sarah wondered aloud, watching as the stallion gently nuzzled the foal again. "Wild horses don't typically care for foals that aren't their own." Jenny, still focused on examining the weak foal, shook her head in amazement. "Sometimes nature surprises us. This stallion could be related to the foal's mother, or maybe—" She paused, her voice softening. "Maybe it just couldn't bear to watch an innocent creature suffer." The foal let out another weak cry, and the urgency of the situation snapped everyone back to attention. "We need to get this little one to the sanctuary immediately," Jenny declared. "Every minute counts now." As the rescue team began preparing a makeshift stretcher from their emergency supplies, the stallion remained close, its eyes never leaving the foal. Its mission to find help had succeeded, but somehow they all knew this was just the beginning of an extraordinary story. Working with careful movements, Mike began examining the clearing more thoroughly, his trained eye picking up details that painted a clearer picture of what had happened. "See these tracks here?" He pointed to deep gouges in the earth. "Mountain lion. Big one, too, judging by the size." The group fell silent, the harsh reality of nature settling over them. Jenny continued treating the foal while listening to Mike's assessment. "The struggle pattern suggests the mother put up a fierce fight," he continued, his voice heavy with respect. "She would have done anything to protect her baby." Sarah knelt beside a patch of disturbed earth, carefully brushing aside some leaves. "There are more blood traces here," she reported grimly, "and drag marks leading off in that direction." She pointed toward a dense section of forest where the underbrush grew thick and wild. "The mother wouldn't have left her foal voluntarily," Tom added, his years of ranching experience evident in his voice. "Not at this age. She must have—" He trailed off, but everyone understood. The mother had made the ultimate sacrifice protecting her young. The stallion, who had been standing guard nearby, suddenly lifted its head and nickered softly. The sound carried a sadness that seemed almost human. Jenny looked up from her work with the foal, her eyes widening with sudden understanding. "I think I know why he's so protective," she said quietly. "Look at his coloring, his build. He shares several physical characteristics with the foal. They're likely from the same herd, possibly even related. In wild herds, these bonds run deep." Mike nodded in agreement. "I've studied these herds for years. They form complex social structures, with strong family bonds that we're only beginning to understand. This stallion might be an uncle, or even the foal's father." The evidence they found told a tragic story. The mother, likely separated from the main herd, had been attacked while grazing with her foal. The stallion, perhaps hearing the commotion, had arrived too late to save her, but in time to protect the foal. "What's remarkable," Jenny continued, administering fluids to the weakened foal, "is that he didn't just protect it. He went against every natural instinct to seek human help. That shows an incredible level of intelligence and desperation." Tom, who had initially been skeptical about following a wild horse into the wilderness, shook his head in amazement. "In all my years working with horses, I've never seen anything like this. It's like he knew we were the foal's only chance." The stallion remained close, watching their every move with intelligent eyes. When Jenny needed to perform a more thorough examination of the foal, he stepped aside as if understanding, but kept his gaze fixed on the tiny creature. "We've got to move quickly," Jenny announced, finishing her initial treatment. "The foal's condition is critical. It survived this long thanks to him," she nodded toward the stallion. "But it needs immediate medical attention if it's going to make it." As the rescue team prepared to move the foal, the challenges ahead became startlingly clear. The makeshift stretcher, crafted from emergency blankets and sturdy branches, seemed fragile against the rugged terrain they needed to traverse. The sun had begun its descent, casting long shadows through the trees and adding urgency to their mission. "We need to secure the foal carefully," Jenny instructed, her medical training taking precedence. "Any excessive movement could cause more harm than good." She worked methodically, using soft bandages to create a cocoon-like support system around the weak animal. The stallion's behavior during their preparations was remarkable. It stood nearby, watching intently as they worked, occasionally stepping closer to nuzzle the foal when it whimpered in distress. When they finally lifted the stretcher, the horse's ears pricked forward, its muscles tensing with visible concern. "Easy there, big guy," Sarah spoke softly to the stallion. "We're going to help your little friend." As if understanding her words, the horse relaxed slightly, though its eyes never left the foal. The journey back proved far more treacherous than their inbound trek. The weight of the stretcher forced them to move slowly, carefully coordinating their steps over fallen logs and around tight corners. The stallion, surprisingly, seemed to understand their struggle. It began choosing paths that, while slightly longer, offered easier passage for the team carrying its precious cargo. Suddenly, a distant howl echoed through the darkening forest. The stallion's head shot up, its nostrils flaring. "Wolves," Mike whispered, his experienced ears recognizing the sound. "They're probably picking up our scent." The horse's behavior changed instantly. It moved closer to the stretcher, positioning itself between the rescue team and the direction of the howls. Its protective instinct was clear. It would defend both the foal and its human helpers if necessary. "We need to pick up the pace," Tom urged, adjusting his grip on the stretcher. "Those howls are getting closer." The team quickened their steps as much as they dared, conscious of their delicate cargo. The stallion's presence proved invaluable. When another series of howls, closer now, split the air, the horse quickly guided them toward a more open path. "He's leading us away from their territory," Mike observed, amazed at the animal's intelligence. Every few minutes, Jenny would check the foal's condition, her face growing more concerned as time passed. "Its breathing is getting more labored," she reported during one such stop. "We need to get to the sanctuary within the hour." The fading light made navigation increasingly difficult. Sarah's trail markers, thankfully, reflected their flashlight beams, confirming they were on the right path. The stallion, growing more agitated as darkness fell, began nickering softly to the foal, as if encouraging it to hold on. "Listen," Sarah whispered suddenly. Through the trees ahead, they could hear the distant sound of vehicles on the main road. They were getting close, but the most dangerous part of their journey still lay ahead, traversing the steep incline that led back to civilization. The stallion, sensing their moment of hesitation, moved ahead a few paces before turning back to look at them. Its message was clear: keep moving, keep fighting, don't give up. The arrival at the sanctuary unleashed a flurry of activity. Emergency lights blazed across the yard as veterinary staff rushed to meet the rescue team. Jenny had called ahead, and the facility's main treatment room was already prepared for their critical patient. "Get me an IV started immediately," Jenny commanded as they carefully transferred the foal onto the examination table. "And bring the warming blankets. This little one's temperature is dangerously low." The team moved with practiced efficiency, each person knowing their role in this delicate operation. Outside, the stallion paced anxiously at the sanctuary's gates, its hooves striking the ground in a nervous rhythm. Despite attempts by the staff to lead it to a nearby paddock, it refused to leave its post. Its eyes remained fixed on the building where they had taken the foal, marking every movement, every shadow that passed by the windows. "I've never seen anything like this," remarked Dr. James Wilson, the sanctuary's chief veterinarian, as he joined Jenny in examining the foal. "A wild stallion not only seeking human help, but staying to ensure that help is given. It's unprecedented." Inside the treatment room, the situation remained critical. The foal's vital signs were weak, its small body struggling against the effects of days without proper nutrition. Bags of fluid hung from steel stands, delivering essential nutrients through carefully placed IVs. "Come on, little one," Jenny murmured, her hand resting gently on the foal's neck. "You've fought so hard to survive. Don't give up now." The foal's breathing was shallow but steady, its will to live evident in every rise and fall of its chest. Word of the rescue spread quickly through the local community. By nightfall, people began arriving at the sanctuary, offering support, donations, and assistance. Many were moved to tears by the sight of the stallion, still standing vigil at the gates, its copper coat gleaming under the facility's lights. Sarah, who had remained at the sanctuary to help with the emergency care, stepped outside to check on the stallion. "He's not going anywhere," she observed, watching as the horse acknowledged her presence with a slight tilt of its head. "It's like he knows his job isn't finished yet." The sanctuary staff, recognizing the unique nature of the situation, began making accommodations. They set up water and hay near the gates, ensuring the stallion could maintain its watch without going hungry or thirsty. Some even took turns sitting nearby, talking softly to the horse, offering what comfort they could to this extraordinary guardian. Inside, the hours crept by as Jenny and Dr. Wilson worked tirelessly to stabilize the foal. Each small improvement was celebrated, each setback met with renewed determination. The little creature's fight for survival had touched everyone at the sanctuary, inspiring a level of dedication that went beyond professional duty. "The next 24 hours will be crucial," Dr. Wilson announced, reviewing the foal's latest vital signs. "But I'll tell you this, any animal that has the will to survive this long and inspires this kind of devotion from another has a real fighting chance. The first week of the foal's recovery required around-the-clock care. Every 3 hours, Jenny and the sanctuary staff administered nutrient-rich formula through a specialized feeding tube, carefully monitoring the tiny patient's response. Each feeding was a delicate operation, a balance between providing essential nourishment and not overwhelming the foal's weakened system. "Small victories," Jenny reminded her team as they celebrated the foal's first voluntary swallow. "That's how we'll get through this." And indeed, each day brought tiny signs of improvement. The foal's eyes, once dull with exhaustion, began to show sparks of life. Its breathing grew stronger, more regular. Outside, the stallion's dedication never wavered. It had developed a routine, pacing the length of the gates during feeding times, as if sensing the critical moments in the foal's care. The sanctuary staff marveled at its intelligence, noting how it would become more animated when positive developments occurred inside. Physical therapy began on the 5th day. The foal's muscles, weakened by days of immobility, needed gentle stimulation. "We have to be extremely careful," Dr. Wilson explained, as he demonstrated the massage techniques to his team. "Too much pressure could cause damage. Too little won't provide the benefits we need." During these sessions, something remarkable occurred. The stallion, usually content to watch from the gates, began displaying signs of agitation when the foal showed discomfort. It would whinny softly, a sound that seemed to calm the young patient, allowing the therapy to continue. "The bond between them is incredible," Sarah observed, watching this interaction. "It's almost like he's coaching the little one through the tough moments." The sanctuary staff had begun leaving the treatment room windows open, allowing the stallion's encouraging nickering to reach the foal during particularly challenging procedures. The breakthrough came on day 8. During a morning therapy session, the foal attempted to stand. Though its legs trembled with the effort, and the attempt lasted only seconds, the determination in its eyes was unmistakable. The stallion, sensing the momentous occasion, let out a loud neigh that echoed across the sanctuary grounds. "This is what we've been waiting for," Jenny exclaimed, her eyes bright with happy tears. "The will to stand means the will to live." The staff worked tirelessly to support these efforts, using slings and padded supports to help the foal build strength in its legs. Each day brought new progress. The foal's appetite improved, allowing for more substantial feedings. Its coat, once dull and lifeless, began to show signs of shine. Most importantly, its attempts to stand grew stronger, more purposeful. The stallion's behavior changed too. As the foal grew stronger, the horse became more relaxed, though no less attentive. It would often demonstrate natural behaviors, grazing, rolling in the grass near the gates, as if showing the foal what it should aspire to do. "He's not just protecting anymore," Mike noted during one of his frequent visits to check on the pair. "He's teaching, guiding, everything that parents would do." The observation struck a chord with everyone who witnessed this extraordinary relationship. As the foal gained strength, the dynamic between it and the stallion evolved in fascinating ways. The sanctuary staff had created a special paddock adjacent to the recovery area, allowing the stallion closer access while maintaining necessary medical supervision. From this vantage point, the copper-colored horse could better interact with its young charge. "Look at how they communicate," Jenny remarked one morning, watching as the foal wobbled toward the paddock fence where the stallion waited. Their interactions had become more playful, with the stallion gently nickering encouragement as the foal practiced its strengthening exercises. The foal's personality began to emerge during these interactions. Despite its traumatic start in life, it showed a spirited determination that amazed everyone. When it would stumble during physical therapy, it would look to the stallion as if seeking reassurance, then try again with renewed determination. "The transformation is remarkable," Dr. Wilson noted, reviewing the foal's progress charts. "Its recovery rate is far exceeding our expectations." He attributed much of this success to the unique bond between the two horses, a connection that seemed to defy natural explanations. The stallion, too, had undergone a transformation. Its initial wariness of humans had given way to a cautious trust. It would now allow the sanctuary staff to approach, though always maintaining a watchful eye on the foal. Some staff members had even managed to touch its mane briefly during feeding times. "We're facing a difficult decision," Sarah confided to her colleagues during a staff meeting. "Once the foal is fully recovered, do we attempt to release them back into the wild, or has their experience with humans made that impossible?" The question weighed heavily on everyone's minds. The foal's first venture into the outdoor enclosure became a milestone moment. The sanctuary staff had carefully prepared a secure area, complete with soft footing and gentle slopes for exercise. The stallion watched intently from its paddock as the foal took its first steps into the sunlight. What happened next brought tears to many eyes. The foal, initially hesitant, caught sight of the stallion and moved toward it with growing confidence. Though separated by the paddock fence, their connection was palpable. The stallion stretched its neck over the fence, gently touching noses with the foal in a moment of pure tenderness. "They're teaching us something profound about resilience," Mike observed, watching the interaction, "and about the capacity for healing when there's unwavering support." The sanctuary staff nodded in agreement, understanding they were witnessing something extraordinary. As days passed, the foal grew more adventurous, exploring its enclosure with increasing confidence. The stallion remained a constant presence, alternating between gentle encouragement and watchful protection. When the foal would play with enrichment toys provided by the staff, the stallion would watch with what appeared to be pride. "Whatever we decide about their future," Jenny said, watching the pair one evening, "we have to ensure they stay together. Their bond is too special to break." The statement reflected the growing consensus among the sanctuary staff. These two horses, brought together by tragedy, had formed a connection that transcended ordinary understanding. The story of the stallion and foal spread rapidly through social media channels, touching hearts far beyond the local community. A video of their daily interactions posted by the sanctuary went viral overnight, drawing attention from news outlets and animal lovers worldwide. "It's incredible how many people have been moved by their story," Sarah remarked, sorting through the countless messages and offers of support that flooded the sanctuary's inbox. Local schools began requesting visits, eager to teach their students about wildlife conservation through this remarkable tale of survival and devotion. The sanctuary's donation page experienced an unprecedented surge of activity. People from across the globe contributed to support not just the foal's care, but the facility's broader mission of wildlife protection. "This is more than just a story about two horses," Jenny explained to a visiting reporter. "It's about the extraordinary capacity for compassion that exists in the natural world." Local businesses joined the effort, organizing fundraisers and awareness campaigns. A nearby feed store began donating supplies, while a professional photographer offered to document the pair's journey through stunning images that captured their unique bond. The photos, shared on the sanctuary's website, brought even more attention to their cause. "We need to use this momentum wisely," Dr. Wilson advised during a staff meeting. "This is an opportunity to educate people about wildlife conservation and the importance of preserving natural habitats." The sanctuary began developing educational programs, using the stallion and foal's story as a cornerstone for teaching about wildlife protection. School groups started arriving, wide-eyed children pressing against the viewing areas to catch glimpses of the famous pair. The stallion surprisingly seemed to understand the educational value of these visits. It would often approach the fence when groups arrived, allowing the young visitors to see it up close while maintaining a protective watch over the foal. "Look how gentle he is with the children," one teacher observed as the stallion calmly accepted their presence. "It's as if he knows they're here to learn." The foal, too, had grown comfortable with the attention, often putting on impromptu displays of playful behavior that delighted its audience. Local conservation groups seized the opportunity to highlight the challenges facing wild horse populations. They organized seminars at the sanctuary, using the stallion and foal's story to illustrate the importance of preserving wild spaces and protecting these magnificent creatures. "Their story has become a catalyst for change," Sarah noted, watching as another group of visitors left the sanctuary with a deeper appreciation for wildlife. The facility had become more than just a rehabilitation center. It was now a hub for conservation education and awareness. Companies began reaching out, offering corporate sponsorships and support for the sanctuary's expansion plans. What had started as one horse's desperate plea for help had evolved into a movement, inspiring people to take action in protecting wildlife and their habitats. The sanctuary staff worked tirelessly to balance the public's interest with the well-being of their charges. They carefully monitored the stallion and foal's stress levels, ensuring that the attention didn't interfere with the young horse's continued recovery. Through it all, the bond between the two horses remained their primary concern. As the weeks passed, researchers and wildlife experts began visiting the sanctuary to study the unique relationship between the stallion and foal. Through careful observation and analysis of local herd patterns, they started piecing together the likely connection between the two horses. Based on our studies of the wild herds in this region, explained Dr. Emily Roberts, a renowned expert in equine behavior, we believe the stallion may be the foal's uncle. The physical similarities are striking, and this would explain his extraordinary protective instincts. The researchers discovered that wild horses often maintained complex family bonds that extended beyond immediate family units. In natural herds, Dr. Roberts continued, aunts, uncles, and older siblings frequently play crucial roles in protecting and raising young foals. What makes this case unique is the stallion's decision to seek human help. Mike contributed his years of local observation to the research. "I've tracked these herds for decades," he shared, spreading out maps marked with herd movements. "The area where we found the foal falls within the traditional range of one of our oldest family groups. This stallion likely grew up in that same herd." Through DNA testing of hair samples, the team confirmed their theories. The stallion and foal shared genetic markers common to one of the area's established herds. This discovery led to a deeper understanding of why the stallion had acted so courageously. Wild horses have been observed displaying remarkable acts of altruism within their family groups, Jenny explained during an educational seminar. But this case goes beyond typical behavior. The stallion not only recognized the need for help, but overcame its natural fear of humans to save its young relative. The research team documented similar cases from around the world where wild horses had shown extraordinary protective behaviors. However, none quite matched the level of intelligence and determination displayed by this stallion. What's particularly fascinating, Dr. Roberts noted, is how the stallion has adapted its protective behavior within the sanctuary setting. It's maintained its guardianship role while allowing human intervention necessary for the foal's survival. The findings painted a picture of remarkable emotional intelligence. The stallion had somehow understood that human assistance was the foal's only chance for survival, and it had made a conscious choice to trust despite its wild nature. Sarah spent hours observing and documenting their interactions. "Watch how he positions himself," she would point out to visitors, always keeping the foal in sight, always alert to potential threats, but now comfortable enough to let us help. It's an incredible evolution of trust. These discoveries added new depth to their story, helping people understand the sophisticated social structures that existed in wild horse communities. It wasn't just about survival. It was about family, loyalty, and the incredible bonds that could form between these magnificent creatures. As the research continued, one thing became increasingly clear. The connection between the stallion and foal wasn't just a random occurrence. It was a testament to the complex emotional lives of wild horses and their capacity for selfless devotion to family. As dawn broke over the sanctuary one crisp morning, the staff gathered to witness a moment they'd been eagerly anticipating. The foal, now significantly stronger, was ready for its first real run in the larger enclosure. Its coat gleamed in the early morning light, a far cry from the dull, lifeless appearance it had shown upon rescue. "Everything is prepared," Jenny announced, checking the paddock one final time. They had carefully designed a running course with soft, even ground and gentle curves. The stallion watched intently from its adjacent enclosure, seeming to understand the significance of the moment. "Remember," Dr. Wilson cautioned, "this is a crucial test of its recovery. We need to watch for any signs of distress or weakness." But even as he spoke, the foal was already moving with an energy they hadn't seen before. Its ears pricked forward in excitement. When they opened the gate to the running course, the foal hesitated for just a moment. Then, as if responding to an unheard signal, it took its first tentative steps forward. The stallion moved along its fence line, nickering softly in encouragement. What happened next left everyone breathless. The foal broke into a run, its movements increasingly confident with each stride. Its legs, once too weak to support its weight, now carried it smoothly across the paddock. The stallion kept pace along the fence, its own movements reflecting the foal's growing excitement. "Look at that form!" Mike exclaimed, his expert eye noting the strength and grace in the foal's gait. "No sign of weakness, no hesitation. This is more than just running, this is joy." Indeed, the foal's expression seemed to radiate pure happiness as it discovered its newfound strength. The stallion's behavior shifted noticeably during this display. Its previously constant vigilance gave way to a more relaxed demeanor. It was as if seeing the foal run freely had confirmed something important. Its young charge was truly going to be okay. "This is a turning point," Jenny observed, watching as the foal made another circuit of the paddock. "The physical recovery is nearly complete. Now we need to think about their future." The staff had been discussing this moment for weeks, weighing various options for the pair's long-term care. The foal continued to run, each lap showing increased confidence. It would occasionally pause near the stallion's enclosure, touching noses through the fence before darting off again, as if sharing its excitement with its faithful protector. Sarah, who had documented every step of their journey, wiped tears from her eyes as she filmed the moment. "Remember when we found them?" she asked softly. "That tiny, dying foal and this desperate stallion seeking help? Look at them now." The transformation was indeed remarkable. The foal's recovery wasn't just physical. It had developed a spirited personality, a zest for life that seemed even more precious given its near-death experience. And the stallion, while still protective, now showed pride rather than worry in its bearing. Dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold on release day as sanctuary staff made final preparations. A remote location had been carefully chosen, a protected valley where several wild herds were known to roam. The area offered plenty of grazing, natural shelter, and most importantly, the freedom these two extraordinary horses deserved. "Everything's ready," Sarah announced, checking the specially modified trailer one last time. They had designed it to allow the stallion and foal to travel together, understanding that separation would cause unnecessary stress. The loading ramp was lined with rubber mats, ensuring safe footing for their precious cargo. Word of the release had spread through the community, and a small crowd had gathered to witness this final chapter. Among them were the original rescue team, local conservationists, and many who had supported the sanctuary throughout the rehabilitation process. "Remember," Dr. Wilson addressed the gathered crowd, "this is a delicate operation. We need absolute quiet during the release. These are wild animals returning to their natural habitat." The audience nodded in understanding, their excitement contained but palpable. Loading the horses proved surprisingly smooth. The stallion, sensing the importance of the moment, guided the foal with gentle nudges. Together they walked into the trailer, their trust in their human caregivers evident in their calm demeanor. The journey to the release site took just over an hour. Throughout the drive, Jenny monitored the horses through a small observation window. "They're doing great," she reported. "The stallion's keeping the foal calm. Their bond is incredible." At the chosen location, the trailer was carefully positioned facing a sweeping meadow. Beyond lay rolling hills dotted with juniper trees and natural springs, perfect wild horse territory. In the distance, a small herd could be seen grazing peacefully. "This is it," Mike said softly, his years of experience with wild horses evident in his voice. "We couldn't have chosen a better spot. There's everything they need here." The sanctuary team positioned themselves strategically, ready to open the trailer doors when given the signal. A hushed anticipation fell over the gathering as Dr. Wilson stepped forward to begin the release. The moment the trailer doors opened, sunlight flooded in, illuminating the stallion and foal. For several seconds, neither horse moved, taking in the sight and sense of freedom. The stallion moved first, stepping cautiously onto the ramp. It paused, looking back at the foal as if to say, "Follow me." The young horse, now strong and healthy, needed no encouragement. Together they descended the ramp, their hooves touching wild grass for the first time in months. What happened next brought tears to many eyes. The stallion and foal, instead of immediately running off, stood together at the edge of the meadow. The stallion raised its head, scanning the horizon while the foal pressed close to its side. Then, as if responding to an unspoken signal, they began to move forward, first at a walk, then breaking into a magnificent gallop. As the sanctuary team watched the pair disappear into the distance, each member reflected on how this extraordinary journey had changed their understanding of animal intelligence and compassion. The bond they had witnessed between the stallion and foal had challenged everything they thought they knew about wild animals. "You know," Jenny said, breaking the emotional silence, "when we first found them, I thought we were just saving 2 horses, but they ended up teaching us so much more." She wiped tears from her eyes as she watched the last glimpse of the copper-colored stallion vanish over a distant hill. Mike, who had spent decades studying wild horses, nodded in agreement. "In all my years of research, I've never seen anything quite like this. The level of intelligence that stallion showed, seeking human help, staying through the recovery, guiding the foal back to health, it's unprecedented." The sanctuary had been transformed by their presence. What started as a simple rescue operation had evolved into a movement, inspiring greater respect and understanding for wildlife. Local schools now included regular visits to the sanctuary in their curriculum, teaching children about conservation through the story of the stallion and foal. The community really came together, Sarah observed, thinking back to the countless volunteers, donations, and support they had received. "People who never gave much thought to wild horses before are now some of our strongest advocates for conservation." Dr. Wilson, reviewing his notes from the past months, shared his professional perspective. From a veterinary standpoint, the foal's recovery was remarkable. But what made it truly extraordinary was the stallion's role in the healing process. That kind of emotional support isn't something we typically factor into medical recovery. The sanctuary staff had documented every aspect of their journey, creating a comprehensive study that was already influencing wildlife rehabilitation practices across the country. Other facilities were beginning to recognize the importance of maintaining bonds between rescued animals when possible. "Remember how skeptical some people were at first?" Jenny recalled, thinking back to the early days. "They thought we were anthropomorphizing, attributing human qualities to their behavior. But what we witnessed went beyond simple instinct. It was genuine intelligence and emotion. The impact extended beyond just horse conservation. The story had sparked broader discussions about wildlife protection, habitat preservation, and the complex social structures that existed in the animal kingdom. Research institutions had taken notice, launching new studies into animal behavior and intelligence. Tom, who had initially doubted the wisdom of following a wild horse into the wilderness, summed it up perfectly. They proved that sometimes the best thing we can do is trust that animals know what they need. That stallion knew exactly what it was doing when it sought our help. As the team began packing up their equipment, a distant neigh echoed across the valley. Everyone paused, smiling at the sound. It was impossible to tell if it came from their released pair or another wild horse. But it seemed like a fitting farewell to an unforgettable chapter in their lives. The final chapter of this remarkable story came several months after the release, when a wildlife photographer captured stunning images of the stallion and foal thriving with a wild herd. The photographs, shared with the sanctuary, showed both horses looking strong, healthy, and completely at home in their natural environment. "Look how the foal has grown," Jenny exclaimed, examining the photos with misty eyes. The once fragile creature had developed into a strong, young horse, its coat gleaming with health as it ran alongside its protector. The stallion remained close by, but its stance was relaxed, confident in their newfound freedom. The images revealed something else remarkable. The pair had been accepted into one of the area's established herds. Mike, studying the photographs, identified it as the same family group they had suspected the stallion came from originally. "They've come full circle," he observed. "They've found their way home." The sanctuary's success with this rescue had sparked similar efforts nationwide. Other facilities began reporting cases where animals showed extraordinary intelligence in seeking help, though none quite matched the remarkable story of the stallion and foal. Their tale had become a touchstone for wildlife conservation efforts. Their legacy lives on in every animal we help, Sarah reflected, watching a new group of rescued horses in the sanctuary's paddocks. They showed us that with enough patience, dedication, and trust, seemingly impossible recoveries are possible. The sanctuary had grown significantly since their release. New facilities had been built, additional staff hired, and educational programs expanded. Every new visitor heard the story of the copper-colored stallion who defied natural instincts to save a dying foal, and how that act of courage had transformed a community's understanding of wild animals. Local ranchers reported occasional sightings of the pair, always together, always strong and free. Their story had become legend in the region, passed down to new sanctuary volunteers and shared with visiting conservation experts. They were living proof that some bonds transcend the expected boundaries between wild and domestic, between animal and human understanding. "You know what I remember most?" Dr. Wilson said during a staff gathering marking the anniversary of their release. "It wasn't just about saving lives. It was about witnessing something extraordinary, a demonstration of intelligence and compassion that changed how we view these magnificent creatures." The final photographs showed the stallion and foal silhouetted against a sunset, running free with their herd across the open plains. It was an image that captured everything their story represented: survival, dedication, healing, and the triumph of compassion over adversity. In the end, what had started as a desperate plea for help had become a testament to the extraordinary capacity for love and courage that existed in the natural world. The stallion and foal had not just survived, they had shown humans a profound truth about the depth of animal intelligence and emotion. Their story continues to inspire, reminding us that sometimes the most powerful lessons about compassion and courage come from the most unexpected sources. This story teaches us that every creature, no matter how wild or distant from human understanding, has the capacity for remarkable emotional intelligence and devotion. Let's carry this message forward and work together to protect these magnificent animals and their habitats for future generations. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories of animal courage and survival. Hit that notification bell to ensure you never miss our uploads, and share this video with friends and family who might need a reminder of the extraordinary bonds that exist in the natural world.